Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter, and today we're going to be doing a collection and declutter video on my cool toned palettes. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me, we're getting into it right now. So the good news is that cool toned color palettes are making a huge resurgence, right? So there's lots to pick from, which means you don't have to keep any that suck, which is great news for us, bad news for Wet n Wild. So we're going to start with this one. This is the Fantasy Makers palette, and I picked this one up at Halloween because I thought, oh my gosh, this is actually, it reminded me a lot of this Euphoria palette from profusion, and so I was like, I really liked this one, so I'm sure I'll love this. This is such a good idea, blah blah blah. Pick it up and everything is just very okay. The metallics in here are like a very strong satin type metallic. There's nothing really sparkly or duochromy about it, much that this one would imply it's a duochrome. It just doesn't really pull that way, and I just think there's better out there, so I'm definitely going to be letting this one go. I'm happy to see it go. Next, we'll talk about this Star Wars palette from Colourpop. I'm absolutely keeping this one. I don't really have too much of a strong opinion about Star Wars in general, but I do really like this palette. I think the neutral shades that they have in here are really soft and really complementary to my skin tone. I love the Super Shock that's in here, and then this gunmetal gray shade, stunning. This dark side shade, while it has this like purple sparkle in the pan, it doesn't really show up on the lids. It just shows up as a black, which is fine with me. Overall, really like this one, definitely keeping it. I'm gonna keep this Wild Jaguar palette too. This is like one of my favorite Hooda Beauty palettes that I have in my collection. I think these two shades in particular are really stunning in this particular palette. I don't know why on earth this is all like embedded here, whatever. The black in here is quite nice. These two shades I feel like were not super necessary, but I think they're using it to kind of complement that color there as well. Overall, I really like it. It's portable, it's got cool packaging, so we're definitely keeping it. This Silver Mist palette from Moira is really nice. I picked this one up at the local hair shop near me when I went to go get some hair products for my kiddos, because they have like mixed race. They are mixed race, and so they have, yeah, we can just ignore all that. I don't need to worry about that. We went to the hair shop, I picked this up, and I really like it. I think it's like a really nice color story. I have another one of these palettes in this particular line that I haven't tried yet, but I'm looking forward to trying because this one worked so well for me. So this is the Give Beauty palette. This is the only thing from Give Beauty that I own, and I found it at TJ Maxx or Marshall, something like that, and I picked it up, and then I ordered something from Mercari and they sent this as like a free gift, and I tried it out, which is why it looks used, and I liked it. I'm not sure that I'm in love with it. I feel like I need to play with it a little bit more before I can like make my feelings known, and I think it's kind of a cool packaging, so I'm gonna hang on to it for now. This is the Lorac Pro Noir palette, and this has to be one of the palettes that really convinced me to get back into Lorac, because this like kind of purpley toned shade here, you've got this really gunmetal gray shade here, you've got this really sparkly white here. I think in general this is a really nice palette, and I love the distribution of cool tones and metallics versus mattes. I'm definitely going to keep this one, but if you see the Mystic Oak one for sale, the little 6-pan, I think that one would work just as well as this one. This is the Glamly Chucky palette, and I am not like a horror kind of person, but I did like this color story, so I went ahead and picked this palette up anyway. And I will say it's a quite nice palette. I really enjoyed using it. Definitely, of course, the looks were really like smoky and grungy and dark, so you have to be a little careful not to take things too high or you're gonna look a little insane. But in general, I thought the looks for this palette came out really nice, so I'm definitely gonna keep that one. This is from Unicorn Gang Shop, and it's like a, what do they call this? I forget the name of this one. It has some kind of like sea nymph name or something, but anyway, this is what the palette looks like. I really like this particular color story as well. Definitely cool toned. You could almost argue that this is think I may move this one into like the colorful palettes. I think of it as cool toned, and it definitely has a cool undertone, but it's not really neutral. So I think I need to move it to the appropriate spot. But in general, I like this palette, and I'm definitely going to keep it. We'll set it back there so I remember to fix that. This is Gloss Gods Smoke and Mirrors, and I think this is the first Gloss Gods palette I picked up as well. It looks like this. It's a very nice palette overall. The matte formula though is quite thin, so you have to do a lot of building to kind of get it where you want it to go. But this is actually a multi-chrome, and it's very, very nice multi-chrome. You have this very sparkly metallic here, and then I really like these two shades down here. So I'll be keeping this one, especially because it's my only reference to their formula. But I would say if you are in the United States, you could probably do better buying from other indie brands rather than paying the fees to get this one shipped to you from, where are they from? Sweden, I think? Somewhere in Europe, that much I know. This is the Thor Love and Thunder Valkyrie palette, and this is from Ulta's collaboration with Thor's movie from last year. I like this one a lot. Like, the packaging is really cool. I like that. And I like the color story to an extent. I don't really care about these two shades right here, but everything else in here I like. The metallics are a little bit weak, which is to be expected because it's an Ulta brand palette. But in general, I still like it enough that I want to keep it. Ooh, this one's a good one. This is the Colourpop Troublemaker palette, and I really like this one. It has a similar color story to like that Crazy in Love palette from Glamly and Chucky, but this one's a little bit more toned down, so I feel like this is the more wearable version of that. If you're a little bit too intimidated by the Glamlight one, this would be one to think about getting. Overall, I think it's a really nice formula. You get a super shock in here. This silver is like stupid pretty, and I think the actual like packaging design and everything's pretty cool too. This is the Odins Eye Christmas Eve palette. I didn't buy the Christmas Day palette because originally I was like, it's a lot of like warm tones. I don't really care about that too much. And now I feel kind of sad that I didn't get it, but I think I'm more sad because of the completion's sake of it rather than because I really want that color story. But this is what this palette looks like. I do think it is quite pretty. You've got a gorgeous multi-chrome in here. Every one of the Odins Eye metallics are like real sparkly, and they just have like really nice dimension to them. The mattes are powdery but very blendable. So overall, really like this palette. Definitely want to keep this one. Plus this packaging is like chaotic, and I kind of like that. All right, let's talk about this Euphoria palette. This is probably the most beat up palette I've ever had from Profusion, and it's because I had to order it off of Walmart's website, and when I did, they must have like drop kicked it all the way to my house, and this shade came completely exploded. So I had to kind of like scrape it out of all the other pans and put it back together as best as I could, which I did, but I wish I could have gotten like a good one that was still intact. I like this very nice metallic kind of silvery taupe shade, and then this element shade actually has sparkles of different colors in it, so it's not just a metallic black. Overall, I think this is a really pretty palette. It's a cool color story, and it's definitely nicer than the Wet n Wild one, so I'm going to keep this one. This is another Playing in Makeup by Yolanda palette, and this one, oh, there's still a little card in this. I can take that out. This one has a really beautiful color story with just that pop of deep purple. The metallics in here are very nice. The mattes in this one are a little bit dry, but I don't know if that's because maybe this one was older than the other palette that I got, like it had been sitting on the shelf longer kind of thing, because it does feel a little drier than the other one, but I still like it, so I still want to keep it. Nabla Dreamy 2. Like I said, I'm not going to be decluttering my Nabla palettes, and I really like this Rem shade. Like, it's one of my favorite shades that Nabla has ever done. And then this Offline shade is like a cream to powder type formula, which is kind of interesting for them. I don't really care about the kind of neutrally shades in here, but these blue purpley type shades, and then this one I really like, and Lucid Dream is pretty nice too. All right, this is Nightmare Before Christmas. Not a movie that I was like super into as a kid. In fact, I didn't watch it until I was an adult. When this palette was coming out, I sat down and watched the movie with my kids, and then they proceeded to watch the movie every day for like 2.5 months. So we got to know that movie really well. But I do like the palette. I think it's a cute color story. I wish the metallics in here were a little bit more special. Like this one definitely looks like a duochrome, but when you swatch it and put it on the lid, like it's just a little bit weak. Like you can tell it's there, but it's not like knocking your socks off, you know? So I wish we had a little bit more oomph in the shades there, but other than that, I think the packaging is cool and the color story is in general pretty cool. This is the Lime Crime Venus Immortalis palette, and I'm pretty sure this is the only Lime Crime palette I have as well. I really like this color story. I think this is one of the first cool tone palettes I ever purchased, and then I realized how awesome cool tones are and really just like dove head deep into it. Because I started getting into makeup in like 2015 when everything was like the Morphe 350. So everything was orange for forever. And this was just like completely turning on its head from that. So really like this one, definitely going to keep it. It also has cool packaging. I think this is supposed to glow in the dark too, but the way my makeup is set up, it doesn't really get like direct sun like that anyway to like charge it. This is the Paris palette. Is this the Paris? Yeah. This is the Paris Entendu palette, and I really like this one as well. I originally did a video trying to spoof this palette or like duplicate it in my collection, so I didn't have to like order this one online, and then promptly ordered this one online anyway. And I do really like it. The Viseart shadow formula is very nice, very soft. So if you're somebody that's a little intimidated by colors like this, I would consider trying a color story like this from them first, because it'll be a lot easier to work with. All right, next. This is the Natasha Denona Galama palette, and it looks like this. I lusted after this palette for so long. I was driving myself mad with it, and then finally broke down and bought it after I bought the Alter Ego dupe, and it still didn't like quench my desire for this palette. I bought it, I've used it a couple of times, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's a decent palette, but it's not like knocking my socks off. Like I think I probably would have been okay without it if I could have just like calmed my psyche down a little bit. So I'm gonna keep it because it's Natasha Denona and I really like her palettes, but it's not my favorite. This is the Flower Beauty and ET palette, and what a dumb packaging. You have to use this little plastic thing. It's the worst idea ever. Anyway, this is the color story and I really like it. It's gorgeous colors in here. The metallics go on the lid really nicely. I think the whole like ET thing, like I get why they did it because she was in the movie or whatever, but I do not care about any of that. If I could like pop this little thing out and keep it separate, I would, because I hate this packaging, but I do like the colors a lot. Lorac Pro palette. This has to be one of the oldest palettes in my collection. This palette I remember buying at Kohl's back when I was buying Lorac palettes at Kohl's, and gosh, this has to be from like 2016, 2017. So going on like 8 years or so. But it's still like, the shades are still so soft and buttery. Like Lorac formula is like never ending. It's so pretty. So I can't give it up just yet. And then I have the Earthen Stone, which is another one of these Pat McGrath dupes. And this one is definitely more of like a direct dupe to the edition that has that Mothership with the pop of green in it. Like I said, I really like the formula that's in these palettes, so I'll always hang on to these. Urban Decay Naked Smoky palette. What do I do with you? Because it's like, do I need this palette now? Probably not. Because I feel like I have so many other palettes that give me this kind of look, but I also don't hate that, you know? And I love the packaging. Like this smoked out acrylic is so cool. And this one was limited edition or retired. I can't remember if it was like permanent for a while and then retired or just limited edition, but you can't get it anymore. So I kind of feel like maybe I should save it just in case. Because if I ever fall in love with it again, I'm never going to be able to find it. You see how easy it is for me to talk myself into palettes, you guys? This is my only Pat McGrath Mothership palette, and this came from my wonderful aunt. This is a gorgeous palette. I do really like the mattes in here. These three metallics are not impressive at all. Like they're kind of forgettable, but the like quad over here is really, really nice. So I'll definitely be keeping it for that reason. they are weighty. Oh my gosh. This is the Night and Day palette, and this is the duplicate to this original palette. I actually think these two metallics are better than the original metallics, and in general I think these aren't quite as special, but they still give you a really pretty look. So if you can find this one, I don't think you'd be disappointed. ABH Sultry palette looks like this. This was 2018 holiday, I think, and I do like it. I'm not ready to get rid of it, especially because it was limited edition, but I definitely don't reach for it as much as I used to. This Cyborg shade, oh, it's still so metallic and buttery too. Yeah, like that's really pretty. Definitely will keep. All right, Melt Mary Jane. What an upsetting palette this was. I tried to use this on my eyelid and it felt like I was rubbing cat litter on my eyes. Like it literally hurt my eyes and I was really irritated by that. I haven't actually tried this palette since then. But I tried to get my money back from Sephora and they were like, no, just keep the palette, we'll refund you. It's like, you guys don't want it back either? That's weird. And I say the word weird very sarcastically there. So it's got like some maybe workable shades in the rest of the palette. I need to give it another chance, but this shade, this stupid bronze shade, I hated it. Hated it, hated it, hated it. So gritty. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I think I keep it because I hate it so much and then it gives me one to complain about, you know? And then this is Melt Muerte, which of course I'm going to hang on to. This is a gorgeous palette. Love this friggin' navy blue shade. There, in all of the dupes ever that I have seen for this palette, I have never seen one that was able to successfully dupe that blue. That's the shade that seems the most unique to this actual palette. KVD Matte Metal looks like this, and I keep this one really for this tinsel shade. Everything else in here is not that special to me, but yeah, I keep it for that tinsel shade because it's just so pretty. This is another one that I've had for ages and ages. It was like back when I first bought that, you couldn't find shades like that in any other palette. I know because I went swatching almost my whole collection looking for something similar and couldn't find it, and that's when I bought this. Rude. All right, this is Profusion Smoky palette. I like this palette a lot too. Do I necessarily need to keep it? I keep it because I really like this bling shade and I like Bewitched. It just has this like beautiful taupey kind of quality to it, and the colors in here blend so nicely together. I feel like I have a lot of other alternatives though. And I haven't decluttered anything from this video yet. Yeah, I'll declutter this one. Will I? Oh, I don't know. I like to take that one traveling with me though. No, if I'm thinking this hard about it, I'm gonna regret it. So we'll just keep it. All right, this is the Morphe, what are you called? Power Effects palette, I guess. But I really like this one. These two shades are supposed to be like highlighter dupes as well, so they're really, really extra sparkly. And then this is a really beautiful like blue-brown pigment, which is a Manny MUA favorite, apparently. So you can see that right there. I definitely think it would do better being built up a little bit. Again, like this one that I thought was a little bit too soft. But overall, I think this is a pretty palette. It's travel friendly, so I'm going to keep it. This is another one that I like. I feel like because I spent so much money on it, I'm not willing to give it up just yet, but I do get kind of annoyed at the qualities of this palette. So I like the like gunmetal-y shades that are in here. The mattes are a little thin, and the multi-chromes, I feel like you have to work really, really hard to get them to show up because they're a really thin formula. And it like, I've never had to struggle with anybody else's formula this hard to get like so little payoff, you know? It's just odd. I am going to go ahead and keep this. Anyway, this is the Colourpop Beauty palette. It looks like this. This is a part of that $7.99 collection. This is my favorite. Out of all of the palettes that I've picked up from Colourpop Beauty, this one is absolutely my favorite. I love these very cool toned blues that are in here. You've got these really awesome kind of gunmetal-y bronze type shades in here. This almost has like a hint of purple to it, which I really appreciate. And then I like that there's a couple of like random greeny yellow type shades just to kind of give a little bit of light to kind of counteract all the depth that's here. But this is a gorgeous palette, and the fact that I got it for $7.99 was like shocking to me. Another Lunar Beauty palette we're definitely not getting rid of, so I'll show you what that one looks like, but definitely we're going to keep that one. Love this bottom row in here, probably my favorite, and then this adamantium shade for sure. And then lastly is the Nomad Haunted Europe palette, and it looks like this. This is probably one of my least used Nomad palettes because I struggle with this color story a lot. I think these shades are probably more my vibe than all of these shades here, and they could have like switched those two and then it would have been like a perfect 12 pan, but whatever. I do think it's a pretty palette. I've only dipped into it a couple times, but I'm definitely going to keep that because it's Nomad. It's got cool packaging. And that's everything for this video. I decluttered one palette out of this one, so this was my least successful declutter in terms of palettes so far. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye!